Folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Remember a week or two ago I said that summer was not yet over here in the Ozarks, and today's going to prove me correct. We're expected to see some record high temperatures in places across the Ozarks, up in the 90s, so we're back to the heat again, but probably by the next week we'll be back down into mild temperatures. It's that time of the year where it's just all over the place. Speaking of all over the place, Forbes magazine or Forbes.com is saying that Blackrock, you know who Blackrock is, don't you? That Blackrock is preparing for a $35 trillion Federal Reserve crisis and U.S. dollar crisis when it comes to the Federal Reserve and Bitcoin. That it's the bubble's about ready to burst. All the market indicators are showing that we are on the verge of something pretty substantial when it comes to economics, U.S. dollar markets. I said just the other day that when it was on September 18th, was it yesterday, day before, when the Fed cut the interest rate. Big coincidence, okay? You know how I feel about coincidences, right? So this was a big coincidence that they cut the rate 0.5% on September 18th of this year. September 18th of 2007, the Fed cut the interest rate 0.5% also, which was part of what led right into the crisis, the financial crisis of 2008. Gold is surging. Spot gold prices above $2,600. Gold futures have already gone up about $25, $26 just today. Silver is like in the mid $31 range. The U.S. dollar just this year alone has lost 30% of its purchasing power against gold. 30% of its purchasing power against gold just this year alone. And even NBC is showing that since Biden took office, that the overall inflation rate is somewhere around 18%. That's officially. I still feel it's higher than that, but when I do the math, but let's just go with the 18%. They talk about 2.5%, 3% interest rates. Again, folks, remember, that's year over year. If you look at the total interest, inflation, I keep saying inflation, sorry. If you look at the overall inflation rate over the last 4 years, we're talking 18 to 20% inflation. Substantial. Joe Biden said yesterday that Americans are doing a lot better since he took office. Right. Everyone is so much more wealthy right now than they were 4 years ago. I mean, it's not like it takes twice what you need to buy groceries or gasoline or to pay your rent or mortgage or your car insurance, which is on average about 52% higher than it was 4 years ago. So, yeah. Speaking of things that are just getting worse, even Fox News is reporting that the United States is sleepwalking its way into World War III. When you look at all the overall totality of everything that's happening, obviously we're talking about Russia and Ukraine. Russia is saying that not only would a World War III start, but very likely a nuclear war would start if the West gives Ukraine complete permission to use its long-range missiles and weapons against Russia, and everyone is pretty much saying that they're in favor of that happening, in favor of Ukraine using those long-range weapons. So we will see what happens. Of course, you all are pretty much aware of what's going on in the Middle East. It's escalating constantly. Many of the Middle Eastern nations are starting to line up and say, hey, what Israel's doing to Lebanon is not right. This needs to be stopped. And Iran, again, is speaking out and saying that they're going to, get involved in this and do something. We'll see if that happens, but definitely things are escalating there. And it's one thing to see a war, an expanded war in the Middle East, but really what it looks like to me is we're watching the world start to line up against Israel. And that, my friend, is very biblical. So we need to pay attention to that. And of course, there's always China and Taiwan. They're just constantly getting ready. You know, there was a report last week that Navy SEALs were training in Taiwan to go to war, basically. There's a report that U.S. soldiers were doing maneuvers out on one of the most distant islands in Alaska, there in the Aleutian Islands, to prepare for possible conflict with Russia. It's like the Cold War 2.0, but really in a lot of ways it's worse, because unlike during the Cold War, it's like no one really wants to stop this. Everyone seems to be very energetic at seeing some type of conflict happen. And so when you look at the complete picture of everything that's going on with the economy, with the invasion here in the United States of illegals, the absolute ridiculous debacle that's going to happen with the election, we all know that. You all know. I mean, I'm not saying who's going to win, but I'm telling you, if you think it's going to go by smoothly, you need to wake up, because it's already not going by smoothly. It's going to be a complete clown show. And then, the war and all this kind of stuff. We're watching the entire planet kind of go into that phase of chaos, confusion, wars, stuff that's predicted in the Bible, the wars and rumors of wars, and all the bad stuff happening, the same thing that's been planned out by the United Nations and by the World Economic Forum of, Klaus Schwab saying a few years ago that the world is going to get angry. It's going to get angry and violent. Well, guess what? It is. I wonder how that happened, huh? We're watching things worsen, and it's not just that we're watching it happen in a far-off, distant country. We're watching it happen on the streets of America. We're watching gang violence and murders and sexual assaults and all of this kind of stuff. We're watching it increase daily. It's like there's this darkness that has fallen over the face of the earth, and that people have just become meaner. They've become more unstable, mentally unstable, emotionally unstable. People have just, it's like they're losing their humanity. And, well, that's what the Bible talks about. And we are, I believe, living in those days. I don't have a timeline. I don't get into that, because we're not going to know. We're going to know that we're getting close, but we're not going to have a timeline. And all I can tell you, folks, is that the things that many of you have been preparing for years, maybe even decades, the things that you've read about in Scripture, the things that you've just known in your heart that it would eventually get to that point. Well, we are there. We are at that point. I've seen people make comments online like, well, Israel is about ready to start a war against Lebanon. Folks, Israel's already started a war against Lebanon. Or, the United States and the West might eventually get involved in a war with Russia. The United States and the West is already involved in a war in Russia. We may not have troops on the ground in Russia, but we are already very much involved. And so it's not an if, it's not even a when, it's that we are, and how much more is it going to get? How much more is it going to escalate? That's really the question, because it's already there. There's already wars all over the place. There's already economic collapse here in America. There's already disease. There's already an invasion of illegals, tens of millions of them. These things are already happening. We can't keep saying, well, they could happen, they might happen, it's possible if. Stop saying that. It is happening. Quit living in denial. Because once you get out of that denial stage, then you can really, really start gearing up and preparing. You know, there's the type of preparedness we do for the what ifs. And a lot of people do that. People that would never consider themselves a prepper. They prepare for what ifs in life. Then there's the preparedness for when you realize it is happening. It's more of readiness than it is preparedness. You're getting into a state of readiness because you see it happening. You know that tidal wave is out there because you can now see it. You can see that tsunami coming at you. You're not planning for the possibility of it happening. You're now planning for the fact that it is happening and you can see it and it's coming straight at you. And that's where we're at. These events aren't an if. They are actually happening as we speak. And they're worsening. And we have to get ready for it. We have to wake up and realize that there's no longer ifs. It's that they're actually happening. And it's when it's going to get really bad for us, for individuals. A lot of things that already have gotten bad for us. A lot of you struggle financially because of all the economic stuff. A lot of you are already dealing with illegals in your area. A lot of you are already dealing with violent crimes in your area. So some of you are already, as I speak, dealing with it. The rest of you, it's not really a matter if anymore. It's a matter of when. When is it going to start hurting you? When is it going to start affecting your bank account, your pocketbook, your bottom line? When are they going to start moving into your area? And when are you going to start seeing crimes and just violence increase in your area? That's what we have to be preparing for. That's what we have to be getting ourselves into a state of readiness, a mental state of readiness, that we understand that these things are happening. Not maybe, not possibly, not if, but they are happening. And we have to just start, yes, doing the physical prep, stocking up, training, all that's important. But I'm talking about just the mindset of understanding where we are at and where this is all headed, and stop denying and thinking that, well, there may be some way to avert this. It is happening, folks. Wake up and get ready. It's time to get your houses in order, to prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.